Welcome to our deep dive today. We're tackling Atomic Habits, the book by James Clear. It's become a bit of a phenomenon for people wanting to, improve themselves. We've got the book right here. We're going to pull out the big ideas for you.
It's really fascinating how Clear takes all this science stuff about habits and makes it, well, not only easy to understand, but actually fun to read. I bet you'll be highlighting something on every other page.
So let's get down to it. What exactly are these atomic habits? Sounds a little powerful, doesn't it?
He uses atomic to get across the point that even small changes, when you add them up over time, they can have really significant results. Just like atoms, these tiny building blocks, they end up creating everything.
So it's not about making big, sudden changes, but more about making those little improvements over time, like that British cycling story Clear talks about.
Oh, exactly. Early 2000s, British cycling, they were kind of struggling. Then Dave Brailsford comes along with this aggregation of marginal gains idea. He was obsessed with finding a 1% improvement in every single thing, the bikes, the athletes' routines, everything.
And they started winning. Olympic gold, Tour de France victories, all because they changed the little things.
It wasn't just physical, though. Think about the psychology. When those athletes believed that even changing their pillows could make a difference, it changed their whole mindset. It gave them a sense of control, confidence.
That's really interesting. So if those tiny changes can make such a big difference, how do we put them into practice?
Clear's big idea, systems over goals. He says, goals are good for setting a direction, but systems are best for making progress. It's like, you might have a goal to win a particular game, but it's the system of practicing that gets you there.
So after you hit that goal, the system keeps you going. Like you finally clean your entire house, but if you don't have a system to keep it tidy, you'll end up back at square one.
Right, and to build those systems, Clear gives us the 4 laws of behavior change. They're actually pretty straightforward.
Okay, lay 'em on me. I'm ready for that life change, one tiny habit at a time.
Well, slow down. It's not magic, but it is a solid framework. First one, make it obvious. Clear tells this story about a paramedic who could instantly tell her father-in-law was having a heart attack just by looking at him.
It makes you think how our brains are so good at picking up on cues. Like when your phone buzzes, you just grab it without even thinking.
It's a cue that triggers a habit, and the more we see that cue, the stronger the connection gets. So to build a good habit, make the cue really obvious. Want to drink more water? Leave a full glass on your desk.
Simple enough. What's the next law?
Law number 2, make it attractive. This gets into the psychology of habits. We naturally seek pleasure and avoid pain, right? Think about how the food industry designs food to be super tasty.
You mean they load it with salt, sugar, and fat to make our brains happy and make us want more, even when we know it's not good for us?
Exactly. And what's interesting is you don't even have to be aware of the cue for the habit to start. You see an opportunity and you just act without thinking. That's the thing about habits. They can be good or bad.
So how do we make good habits more attractive? Besides, adding a bunch of sugar.
Clear talks about temptation bundling. You pair something you want to do with something you enjoy, like only watching your favorite show while you're on the treadmill.
Not sure I love that one. Wouldn't that make me rely on the reward too much? How do you build the motivation to just do it?
Good point. It can be a good first step, though, especially when you're starting out. And it points to something really interesting. How much our social environment matters.
Wait, what does that have to do with social stuff?
Well, we all want to fit in, right? So we tend to do what our friends, what people we admire are doing. Ever notice how easy it is to pick up habits from your friends, even the not-so-good ones?
I guess so. So if I want to build a good habit, maybe I should hang out with people who are already doing it.
Exactly. Clear says being part of a group where that behavior is normal can really boost your chances of success. Want to start running? Join a running club. Want to read more? Find a book club. You're using social pressure to your advantage.
Makes sense. So we've got make it obvious and make it attractive. What's number 3?
Third law, make it easy. It's about simplifying the process, removing obstacles. One strategy is the 2-minute rule.
I've heard of that. Is that where you break the habit down into really small steps? Like instead of running a marathon, you just focus on putting on your running shoes.
That's it. You lower the bar, make it super easy to get started. Once you take that first step, it's easier to keep going. You build momentum.
So it's about being consistent, not going all out at the start. Makes sense. What's the last law? The big finish.
Law number 4 is make it satisfying. It's all about the reward. Remember, we're wired to seek pleasure, and that plays a big role in whether a habit sticks.
So are we talking about giving ourselves a big reward every time we do something good? Because I'm all for that.
Not exactly. It's about making the habit itself satisfying. Clear tells this story about a study with Safeguard soap in Pakistan.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
They found that adding a minty flavor to the soap made people wash their hands way more often. It sounds crazy, but that little bit of instant satisfaction made a huge difference in their hygiene habits.
Wow, great example. It doesn't have to be a big reward. Even something small can make a difference. It's like those ding sounds on your phone when you finish a task.
Exactly. Those little hits of dopamine make you want to do it again. But the key is the reward has to be tied to the habit you're building. You don't want to accidentally create a new bad habit, right?
Right. Before we move on, I have a question. We've talked a lot about good habits, but what about breaking bad ones? Do those 4 laws work there too?
Absolutely. You can actually use them in reverse to make those bad habits less appealing.
So to make a bad habit invisible, you'd remove the cues, like hiding junk food or unsubscribing from tempting emails. And to make it unattractive, focus on the negative consequences of that habit.
Exactly. And to make it difficult, you make it harder to do. Like
Yeah.
literally putting your phone in another room so you're not tempted to scroll forever.
Okay, that's some great stuff. I'm starting to see how powerful these 4 laws can be. But I have to say, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in.
It's true, there is a lot to it. But remember, you don't have to change everything at once. Focus on one small habit at a time. And Clear gives us some really good ways to make those habits stick, which we'll dive into next.
That's good. I'm ready for more.
Let's jump right into part 2 then. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've got those 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. We even talked about how to use those laws to break bad habits.
But how do we actually make those good habits stick? You know, life gets in the way, you lose motivation.
It's so true. You get all excited about a new habit for a week, maybe 2, and then bam, real life hits and you're back to your old ways.
One thing Clear suggests, and it's pretty simple but effective, is habit tracking. It might seem basic, but there's something about actually tracking your progress that works.
Like those apps where you check off a box every day you meditate or something. Does that really do anything?
It does for a lot of people. It's visual, keeps you accountable, and those little check marks, they can be surprisingly motivating. Plus, you get data. You can see what's working, what's not, and adjust.
So it's not just about blindly following a routine, it's about paying attention to how those habits are actually affecting you.
Right. And Clear makes it clear that perfection isn't the goal. Everyone slips up. What matters is what you do after you slip up.
So what's the best way to get back on track when you miss a day? Or 2?
Clear calls it the never miss twice rule. Miss once. Okay, that happens. Miss twice, and you're starting a new bad habit. So get back on track as soon as you can.
I like that one. Takes the pressure off. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent.
Exactly. And something that can help with consistency is being aware of those decisive moments during your day.
Decisive moments, what are those?
Those little choices we make that can either send us towards a productive day or not. Like when you wake up, hit snooze or get out of bed.
Oh, I know those moments too well. Hitting snooze is my weakness.
But think about the ripple effect. Hit snooze and you're starting your day by putting things off. Get up and you're setting yourself up for a more productive day. Those small choices, they really add up.
It's like those choose-your-own-adventure books, except it's real life.
Exactly. Now, Clear also talks about how our personalities play into which habits work best for us. We all have different tendencies, you know.
Are you saying some people are just better at building habits than others? That doesn't seem fair.
It's not about being better. It's about finding habits that fit your personality. Like if you're naturally introverted, maybe habits that involve being alone, like reading or writing, those will work better. An extrovert might thrive on habits that involve other people, like joining a team.
So play to your strengths. And speaking of strengths, there's that Goldilocks rule. Clear mentioned.
Yes. That's about finding the right level of challenge. Like Goldilocks, you don't want the habit to be too easy or too hard, just right.
Too easy, you get bored.
Yeah.
Too hard, you give up. But how do you find that just right level? It seems subjective.
It is. It takes trying things out. And Clear encourages that. He says we should always be adjusting our habits, trying new things, and seeing what sticks.
So it's trial and error. Not about finding the perfect habit,
Yeah.
but finding the habits that fit your life.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point. Reflection. Clear says it's important to regularly look at your habits and see what's working and what's not.
So it's like having a coach for your habits. Always evaluating, refining, making adjustments.
Right. It's a constant process of learning. He even suggests keeping a habit journal where you not only track your progress, but also write down any thoughts you have about how your habits are affecting you.
That's a really good idea.
Ah.
I might try that. I love the idea of habit tracking as a way to learn about yourself.
Now, as we move towards the end of this part, I want to mention something Clear talks about that might seem a bit strange. He says that real happiness might not be about seeking pleasure, but about not having desires.
Whoa, that's a deep one. I'm not sure I get it.
He's saying that when you see a cue, but you don't feel the need to react, you're content. You're not chasing after something. You're at peace.
So, not always looking for the next exciting thing, but finding contentment in the present moment.
It's definitely a different way of thinking about happiness. But it's an interesting idea. What do you think?
I need to think about that one for a while.
No.
It makes me question my whole idea of what happiness is. I'm used to thinking it's about achieving something, getting something, new experiences.
And that's often how we're taught to think. But what if real happiness is more about inner peace no matter what's happening around you?
It's a deep concept. And it connects to this whole habit thing, doesn't it? Maybe it's not just about habits that make you more productive or whatever, but about habits that help you find that inner peace.
It's about making your habits match your values, who you really want to be. That's a journey worth taking.
That's given me a lot to think about. I feel like we're just scratching the surface of atomic habits.
There's always more to learn, but we've definitely hit some of the key points in this part of our deep dive.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to diving into more of Clear's insights in the last part of our deep dive. So we've been talking about systems, those 4 laws for changing behavior, and even how our personalities play a part in all of this. It's incredible how much goes into forming even a simple habit.
Yeah, it really is. And something that stood out to me as we were getting ready for this deep dive is how Clear emphasizes that even really small actions can have a big impact on our habits. He tells this story about Twyla Tharp, the famous choreographer.
Oh, right. Didn't she have a sort of unusual routine?
Every morning, she would get out of bed, get dressed, and then hail a cab to go to the gym. And for her, hailing that cab, that was the key moment.
Like a trigger in her brain.
Yeah.
Once she hailed the cab, the workout was going to happen.
Exactly. It set off the whole chain of events.
Right.
Cab, gym, workout. It's a perfect example of how even something that seems insignificant can start a powerful habit.
Makes you think about what those cab moments are in our own lives, those little things that could trigger a bunch of positive habits.
That's a great point. And it brings to mind another strategy Clear talks about. Habit stacking. Have you ever heard of that?
I think so, but remind me.
It's about connecting a new habit to an existing one. Let's say you want to start meditating every morning, but you just can't seem to make it stick. You could try linking it to something you already do without thinking, like brushing your teeth.
So after I brush my teeth, I meditate for 5 minutes. That's actually a really smart idea. No pressure to create a whole new routine.
Exactly. You're using that existing association and making it easier for your brain to adopt that new behavior.
And talking about making things easier, Clear talks about reducing friction, especially at the beginning of a new habit. He tells that story about a guy named Oswald Knuckles and his resetting the room technique.
Oh, yeah. Knuckles was all about making things effortless. After he finished using a room, he would put everything back in its place. The remote went back on the TV stand, the pillows were straightened, any blankets were folded.
It sounds so simple, but so smart. By resetting the room, he got rid of that feeling of being overwhelmed, which can stop us from tidying up in the first place.
Right. It's about reducing that initial resistance, that feeling that a habit is too much to do.
And I think that applies to so many parts of our lives, not just cleaning. The easier it is to do the right thing, the more likely we are to actually do it, right?
Absolutely. Now, while those practical tips are really helpful, Clear also explores the deeper, more philosophical side of habits. He asks this question: are our current habits really the best way to solve the problems we face?
That's a thought-provoking question. I mean, we often just fall into patterns without really thinking about whether there might be a better way.
Exactly. Clear argues that once we connect a certain solution to a problem, we tend to stick with it, even if there might be other solutions out there that are more effective or maybe even more enjoyable.
It's like we're stuck in a rut, just going through the motions, without considering if there might be a different path.
It's a good reminder to take a step back and look at our habits. Ask ourselves, is this really helping me in the best way possible, or am I just doing it out of habit?
It's like we need to become scientists of our own habits, always
Yeah.
experimenting, observing, and making changes.
And that leads us to another important point: the connection between our habits and our values. Clear emphasizes that we should focus on becoming the kind of person who lives by our values, not just chasing specific outcomes.
So instead of saying, I want to lose 10 pounds, I might say, I want to be a healthy, active person. It's about shifting the focus from external achievements to internal transformation.
Exactly. And as you build those habits that align with your desired identity, you not only achieve those goals, but you also build a stronger sense of self-belief and, well, belief in your ability to do things.
Sounds like a win-win to me. You're becoming the person you want to be and achieving your goals at the same time.
And that's one of the most powerful ideas in Atomic Habits, I think. We have the power to shape our own lives through the habits we choose to develop.
It's a message of hope, of empowerment. We're not just stuck with whatever happens. We can design our own lives.
That's a great way to put it. And like Clear says, success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformation.
It's those small, consistent actions day after day that eventually lead to amazing results.
So as you go through your day, remember, each choice you make, each habit you build is shaping the person you're becoming and the life you're building.
It's a journey of self-discovery and growth. And that's what makes it so interesting. We can choose who we want to be, one tiny habit at a time.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've come to the end of our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
It's been a fascinating journey. Thanks for being with us on this deep dive.
Until next time, happy habit building.